Percy had broken down. Victor was pushing him back to the steamworks to be repaired. He uncoupled Percy's up and away balloon car and pushed Percy into the works. Percy was moved into Victor's spin and fix repair machine. He was really looking forward to steaming along the rails again. However, I think I spotted Tom Moss the prank engine outside, hiding in a tunnel. Why are you here? And what have you done, Tom Moss? The machine started turning. It got faster and faster. Percy's screws started falling out, and the faster it got, the more screws that fell out. Eventually, the machine stopped. Percy felt very giddy. Victor pulled Percy out, but with no screws holding him together, he just fell apart. Poor Percy. Bits everywhere. Tom Moss the prank engine, you changed the spin and fix into a spin and fall apart, didn't you? You naughty engine. Victor took all of Percy's parts away to put together again. The other engines heard of Percy's problem and came to see what they could do. Wait a minute, what's happened to Percy's balloon? Someone's let it down. Tom, what have you done with all the helium? Oh no.
I'm Henry. I'm the number 3 green engine. I'm Gordon. Fastest and best. I'm all the express. Full steam ahead.
All the other engines had inhaled the helium, which made their voices sound really funny.
Even I got some.
Well, take my help. I'm happy to help. I'm James. I'm the brightest red engine on Sodor. Full steam ahead. I'm like boilers. Let's get to work.
The engines then heard a familiar laugh and caught a glimpse of Tom Moss hiding in the tunnel.
Uh-oh.
Tom steamed off quickly, chased by Thomas, Toby, James, Gordon and Henry. He made it back to his lair in the forest where no one else dared venture. Victor finished putting Percy back together again, as good as new, and that naughty engine Tom Moss spent the day thinking up some more naughtiness. Diesel 10 had been to a yard sale. He'd bought 2 truckfuls of spare parts. Come and see what I've got, he said to Splatter and Dodge. I bet you'll never guess what's here. A side rod, said Splatter. The wheel, said Dodge. Well, you're both right, but I've also got something much better. Follow me. Splatter and Dodge followed Diesel 10 into the diesel works. Look, a mirror, said Diesel 10. Splatter and Dodge looked at each other. Oh, good, they said, thinking that maybe Diesel 10 had come off the rails a little, which was confirmed when he started speaking to the mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most devious engine of all? The mirror then started speaking. Why, you are. I knew it, said Diesel 10. Splatter and Dodge were speechless. A talking mirror? The mirror then said, let me finish, let me finish. The mirror started again. Why, you are the second most devious. It's not true, said Splatter and Dodge together. The most devious engine is... The mist cleared. Tom Moss the prank engine. Diesel 10 was furious. It can't be. You 2 splodges, go down to his forest immediately and tear his engine out. OK, boss, said Splatter and Dodge together, and they left in a hurry. Later that day, Diesel 10 decided that Splatter and Dodge had had enough time to sort Tom Moss out. So he tried his mirror again. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most devious engine of all? The mirror cleared. Sorry, your oiliness. Oh, why am I surrounded by idiots? I'm going to have to sort him out myself. Diesel 10 roared off in the direction of the forest. Just before he got to the forest, he stopped. Up ahead was an obstruction on the track. Ah, so he thinks he can stop me with a pile of moss, does he? Moss won't stop me. I'll show him. Diesel 10 continued. Oh no. He removed the track first. How embarrassing. Diesel 10 was stuck. Tom Moss came out from behind the trees and continued on his way back to his forest. Diesel 10, Splatter and Dodge were eventually rescued and returned to the diesel works. We must think of a way to catch him out, said Diesel 10. Do you know a way, Mirror? Ask me nicely, said the Mirror. Oh, very well, said Diesel 10. Mirror, mirror on the wall, have you got a plan for me at all? The Mirror thought and then spoke. I have a plan that's just for you, and this is what you must do. You must... And with that, the mirror shattered into little pieces, hit by a stone thrown from outside. Drat, drat, said Diesel 10. After him, splodges. Splatter and Dodge gave chase. Outwitted by a pile of green. Signals are one of the most important parts of a railway system. They tell trains when to stop and when to go. They stop accidents happening. The signalmen of Sodor are very proud of their signals and can usually be seen in their signal boxes looking out for trains. Today was no exception, and the railway system was running well. Wait a minute, is that Tom Moss the prank engine I see? It is. Tom, I haven't seen you for quite a long time. Have you been in your forest all this time? What have you got in your truck? Snakes? You've been collecting snakes? Now why don't I believe that? I think you've been up to your naughtiness again. Snakes. Looks more like wire to me. Anyway, see you later, I've got to go now. Then, one of the signalmen reported a problem. He couldn't get his signal to show red for stop, with Whiff and Donald heading for the same junction. Too late, the engines crashed, both rolling off the track. The Sodor search and rescue team were called, and so too was the Topham Hatt. He left his house, got in his car and went up his drive, but had to stop at the red light. Bother, he said. Red. Wait a minute, there's never been a signal at the end of my drive before. However, he couldn't go through it because he's always telling the engines never to go through a red light. He waited. Then there was more trouble. Charlie and Stafford crashed at another junction. Both lights were green. Thomas, Rocky and Harold had to speed up with the rescues. Then Molly and Den crashed. It appeared that every signal on Sodor had been set to green, except one. Sir Topham Hatt still couldn't get out of his drive to sort out the problem. Those weren't snakes, were they, Tom Moss? They were signal wires, you naughty engine. There were more crashes, The search and rescue team were flat out. At one point, Harold couldn't remember what he was doing and was actually flying upside down. Utter mayhem, and all due to one engine's naughtiness. Then Thomas spotted Tom Moss hiding in the tunnel and realised that it was him who had caused the problem. Thomas chased Tom, but had to give up to carry on with the rescues. Tom made it back to the safety of his forest to think up more naughtiness. Eventually, all the trains were put back on the rails. None of them were damaged. The signal men repaired the signals and normal life had resumed to everyone, except Sir Topham Hatt, who was still waiting for the light to change to green. The minions were on their way to work. Knapford Station needed a new signal system and the minions were going to install it. Wait a minute, that's Tom Moss the prank engine, the naughtiest engine ever made. Good morning, Tom. I see you like bananas. What's that? They're a new super fuel for engines. I think you're playing another prank, but I don't know what. I'll see you later. The first minions arrived at Knapford and got to work. More minions arrived. Having surveyed the station from all angles, the first of the signals arrived. The signals were quickly put in place and the second set arrived. These two were quickly installed. With the job finished, the minions left.
Banana.
In the direction of Tom Moss and collected some bananas each.
Banana.
I thought he was up to his usual tricks. What did you get the minions to do for you, Tom Moss? Knapford returned to its normal busy self. James arrived and stopped, and then Murdoch. James left, but then there was trouble. Charlie had been sent down the same track. What a crash! Poor old James. Then there was more trouble. Percy had been sent down the wrong track and crashed into Murdoch. I think someone had put the signals in wrong. Thomas arrived and was very cross. Then he caught a glimpse of Tom Moss peeking out from the tunnel. He realised that Tom Moss had promised the minions their favourite food, bananas, if they mixed up the signals. Thomas steamed off. Tom realised he'd been seen and made a run for it. He was too fast for Thomas and made it back to his forest. "I'll get you, Tom Moss," said Thomas, chasing in vain. It was early in the morning, just before Christmas. Later today, the Christmas tree lights in the main square will be turned on by the Earl of Sodor, Sir Robert Norrenby. Thomas and his friends had to make an early start to make sure everything was in place for the evening celebrations. The engines had to look their best. Thomas woke up first and looked at Percy. "Percy, I really don't think the Earl wants to see you with lipstick on." "You're a fine one to talk, Thomas," said Percy. "What's up with your face?" "I don't know what you mean, Percy." Gordon, Henry and James then woke up, and all had had their faces painted. The faint sound of laughter could be heard from the hills. "I might have known it was you, Tom Moss. You crept into the engine sheds last night, didn't you? You naughty engine. You knew they had to look their best today. You've done something else as well, haven't you? But you're not going to tell me what it is, are you?" The engines realised that they had had a prank played on them. They had a busy day ahead, so quickly rushed off to the engine wash to clean themselves up. Percy couldn't see where he was going and took the wrong track, but eventually got himself cleaned. It wasn't a good start to the day, and things were going from bad to very bad. So Topham Hatt wanted Thomas to get to the main square as quickly as he could. "Oh, what's happened now?" thought Thomas as he steamed away. He arrived in the town and met Sir Topham Hatt at the Christmas tree. The two of them looked up to the star at the top of the tree. Except the star wasn't there. What was there was a pair of old, smelly underpants. "Someone has stolen the star, Thomas. We can't let the Earl of Sodor see this." Some of the other engines arrived to have a look. Laughter could be heard coming from behind a nearby building. "I might have known it was you, Tom Moss." "I've got an idea," said Thomas. "I'm sure I delivered a large star to the Teddy's toy shop. I wonder if they'll let us borrow it." The toy shop agreed and Thomas set off to collect it. He just happened to use the same track that Tom Moss was on, and Tom thought Thomas was chasing him, but Thomas had to stop at the toy shop. "I'll deal with you another day," shouted Thomas, and Tom Moss steamed off back to his forest. The toy shop loaded their star into Thomas's car. When Thomas arrived at the tree, they took down the smelly underpants and put the toy shop star on the top. Darkness fell and the time had come for the Christmas tree lights to be turned on. Everyone gathered round and the countdown started.
3, 2, 1.
The Earl of Sodor turned the lights on to a cheer from the crowd. The star looked good at the top of the tree. Everyone started singing Christmas carols and all agreed that these were the best tree decorations they had ever had. Hello, today we're going to open some Thomas surprise eggs. Thomas will collect them from around the track. Wait a minute, Is that Tom Moss the prank engine in that tunnel? It is. Hello, Tom Moss. What are you doing here? You've come to see if a mini Tom Moss engine is in one of the eggs. You'll have to wait a long time. They don't make mini models of naughty engines in this range. Thomas set out for the first egg. He hadn't seen Tom hiding in the tunnel. If you haven't heard of Tom Moss before, his full name is Tom Moss the Prank Engine. He's the naughtiest engine on Sodor, and he's always playing pranks on the other engines. You can see how he got his name and see the other pranks he's played by clicking this link or follow the links in the description. The egg's nearly open. Who's it going to be? This is the exciting bit. It's brown and it's sticky. It's a pile of sticks. Maybe it's Toby the wooden tram engine and we've got to make him ourselves. Oh, sorry viewers. Let's hope we have better luck on the second egg. Actually, I'm sure that's not right. I think we should send that egg back. What do you mean we have to send the chocolate back as well? Awkward. We'll keep the sticks. Now the second egg. The Percy egg. I wonder who's inside this one. It's a green engine. It's Mossy. It's Henry. No, it's just Moss. We have definitely got some bad eggs here. I'm so sorry viewers. These are going to have to be returned, and I haven't eaten the chocolate yet on this one. Please, now better luck on the third, the Thomas egg. Right, it's another green engine. No, I don't believe it. It's a mini Tom Moss. It can't be. They don't make them. Look. At that moment, more laughing could be heard. Thomas looked up and saw Tom Moss watching in the tunnel. We've been tricked, said Thomas, and he steamed off to catch Tom Moss. Tom, who had changed all the eggs when no one was looking, steamed out of the tunnel backwards with Thomas chasing him. But Thomas suddenly stopped. Tom carried on back to the safety of his forest, while Thomas backed into the tunnel. He then emerged with his truck full of green eggs. These must be the real ones, said Thomas, and he steamed into the station and unloaded the eggs. They were then opened and the real contents of the eggs revealed. No harm done, said Thomas, but they were left with a mini Tom Moss to remind them of the prank he had played on them. Good morning, Tom Moss. You're up early. I guess that means you've played another prank and are just waiting to see the results. You're looking at the Tidmouth sheds. Just then, Thomas woke up and ventured outside. I see what you've done, Tom Moss. You've decorated Thomas in play-doh. He looks like one of Lady Hat's hats. Flowers everywhere. He's not happy at all, is he? Speaking of hats, here's Percy. What have you done to him? He actually looks like Lady Hat. And another hat this time on. Now, who's that? I don't recognise the face. Wait, that's Toby. The last engine to wake up is Coco the Clown. No, it can't be. Is that Arthur under that play-doh? It is, isn't it? Well, you're certainly very creative, Tom Moss. The engines look like they're going to a wedding with a clown. What a great photo album it would make. The engines were really cross and wanted to get rid of their play-doh as quick as possible and set off for the engine wash. Tom, why are you still here? You've usually disappeared by now, unless... What have you done to the engine wash? It looks alright, except there's quite a lot of soap bubbles. You've put extra soap in it, haven't you? There were bubbles everywhere, but the engines needed a wash, so they went in one by one, and although they came out clean, they were still covered in bubbles. The engine wash continued to pump out bubbles even after all the engines were clean. Through the soap bubbles, Thomas just caught a glimpse of Tom Moss the prank engine, who realised that he had been seen and raced off, followed by Thomas and the other engines all still covered in bubbles. Bubbles were everywhere. Even Tom Moss got some on him, but he managed to steam off back to his forest to think of more naughtiness. It was a snowy day, and Thomas was busy exploring his new 5-in-1 track sets, when all of a sudden he came across an engine he didn't recognise. "Hello, I'm Thomas," said Thomas. "Who are you?" "Samson at your service," said the stranger, "and I'm here to help build the new dinosaur park at Olmsted Castle. Look, I've got some dinosaurs in my trucks." Thomas looked behind Samson, but couldn't see any trucks. What trucks?" said Thomas. Samson looked behind. "Oh no, where have my trucks gone?" "Don't worry, Samson," said Thomas. "I'll help you find them. They must have come uncoupled. They can't have gone very far." Thomas and Samson started searching all around the track for his dinosaur trucks, but couldn't find them anywhere. "They can't have vanished," said Thomas. "Let's keep looking." Then Thomas thought he saw something underneath the track, and coming down the hill, slowed to a stop. No, nothing. But then he looked up, straight into the eyes of that naughty Tom Moss the prank engine. That explains the missing trucks, said Thomas. You've got them, haven't you? Realising he'd been caught, Tom Moss sped out of the tunnel with the dinosaur trucks behind him. Samson watched from the track above as his trucks were pulled by Tom Moss, with Thomas giving chase. Then there was trouble. Going up one of the hills, Tom's wheels started spinning on the track. He hadn't had his wheels modified for the new track, and the extra weight of the trucks caused problems. Realising he was about to be caught, Tom uncoupled the trucks, which hurtled towards Thomas, stopping just in front of him. Tom sped off in the direction of his forest, knowing the trucks on the track had stopped Thomas. Meanwhile, Samson had caught up with Thomas and was so pleased to see his trucks. They coupled the trucks back onto Samson and he set off for Olstead Castle, proudly pulling the dinosaurs behind him. Thomas kept a lookout for that naughty Tom Moss, but I don't think he'll try the same prank twice. Do you? Good morning, Tom Moss. You're here at the pumpkin patch very early this morning. Are you looking for a pumpkin for your forest? No? Then you must be up to something. Go on, go back to your forest. Later that day, Peppa Pig and her friend Pedro Pony were busy helping Thomas and his friends decorate Timna's sheds, ready for Halloween. There, said Peppa. That looks good, but I'm sure we're missing something. Well, we haven't got Ghostly Percy, said Henry. I think we need some walking skeletons, said Spencer. What about a pumpkin, said Gordon. That's it, said Peppa. We need a pumpkin. Thomas then said he knew of a pumpkin patch they could go to, and he steamed out of the sheds. Peppa and Pedro hopped on and off they went. At the pumpkin patch, Peppa and Pedro went looking for the right pumpkin. This one's nice, said Peppa. A bit small though, said Pedro. Then they turned around and saw the biggest pumpkin they had ever seen. Oh, wow. There, that's the one we need. They went over and tried to lift it, but it was far too heavy for them. Don't worry, said Thomas. I have a friend who can help us lift it onto my truck. A few moments later, a car motored up. Wait a moment, said Peppa. That's Superman. Superman came over to the pumpkin and lifted it into the air, all on his own. Walked over to the truck and put it down. Thank you so much, said Peppa and Pedro. Thomas thanked Superman for coming as well. Peppa and Pedro got back on Thomas and off they went with a giant pumpkin. Back at the sheds, Thomas's tipping truck and a little help from Peppa and Pedro got the pumpkin rolling on the grass, and it came to a rest in exactly the right place. Perfect, said Peppa, and they stood back and admired their work. "Is that your watch ticking?" said Peppa to Pedro. "No," said Pedro. "I haven't got a watch." "Oh, I wonder what it is." Then there was a loud explosion, and pieces of pumpkin flew everywhere. Laughter could be heard coming from behind the sheds. Peppa looked, and there in the distance she saw a green engine. "Tom Moss the prank engine. What did you do to our pumpkin?" "I'll chase him," said Thomas, and he rushed out of the sheds and headed for Tom. Tom saw him coming and made a run for it back to his forest. Now we know why he was at the pumpkin patch, don't we? Henry was on his way to pick up a very important person. He'd avoided the mud that Spencer and Gordon were splashed with and had already picked up the royal coach, which he was now pulling. Things were going well for Henry. James was also out and about on his errands. There was a crossing of tracks in a tunnel up ahead, and James stopped at the signal. Henry was coming from the other direction, and he stopped too. Both signals were showing red for stop. The engines couldn't see each other because of the trees, but the signalman ensured that all ran smoothly. But just then, both signals turned to green. James and Henry started together and crashed into each other on the crossing in the tunnel. Oh dear, how could that have happened? I might have known. Tom Moss the prank engine. That was your doing, wasn't it? The search and rescue team were informed, and Thomas and Rocky were sent to help. When they arrived, Thomas pulled Rocky into position above the tunnel. Thomas then saw Tom Moss in another tunnel. Realising he'd been seen, he left quickly, heading back to his forest. This time Thomas couldn't give chase. He was coupled to Rocky, and it was more important to sort out the crash. Percy was passing and saw the crash. Thomas called out to him, "Percy, can you take the royal coach from Henry and go and pick up the very important person? I don't think Henry will be ready for a while." Percy backed up to the coach, coupled up, and then left. Rocky started work. James had hit the side of Henry, so he had to pull James out first. Then he moved into position to pull Henry out and put him back on the rails. Luckily, there wasn't much damage. James continued his journey, and Henry started the journey back to the Tidmouth sheds now that Percy was collecting the very important person. Thomas started his return to the search and rescue centre, going past the now empty tunnel. "I'll catch you next time, Tom Moss," he said. Thomas was in a good mood. Sir Topham Hatt had asked for him to deliver some very special cargo. Some workers had found some long-lost treasure in a cave. "I need you to deliver this treasure to the museum, Thomas," said Sir Topham Hatt. "No problem," he replied, and he reversed the truck into place and watched the workers load the treasure. Unfortunately, someone else had their eye on the treasure. Tom Moss, the prank engine. Tom Moss rushed over and ran away with the treasure. The workers were devastated. "Go get him, Thomas," one of them said. So a furious Thomas steamed off in pursuit of Tom. Tom headed towards Islesborough Dock to load the treasure onto Skiff so he could escape with it. But Thomas was catching up quickly. So once the treasure was loaded, Tom ran away, leaving the truck behind. In his haste, Thomas got himself stuck in the shallow water. Despite being covered in seaweed, Thomas went for the treasure. As he reached the top, Skiff started heading down the ramp towards the water. But when he reached the water, he hit a huge wave, launching the treasure high into the air. Luckily, it landed straight into the truck. "Oh bother," said Skiff. "Nice try," said Thomas, "but I'm going to take the treasure to the museum where it belongs." And off he went. "Well done, Thomas," said Sir Topham Hatt. "You did really well." Nearby, Tom Moss retreated back into the woods, but I don't think that's the last we've seen of him. I'm Dave, and thank you for watching my story, which featured the new Trackmaster Treasure Chase set from Fisher-Price. It works by loading the treasure onto Skiff, and when the seaweed-covered Thomas passes, Skiff gets released and rolls down the ramp. When he hits the water, the spring-loaded treasure launches up into the air, and when Thomas runs over the water, he stops and splashes around until the bow is pressed down to release him.
It was a beautiful sunny day. Peppa and her friend Susie were playing outside in the sunshine. "I love your crown, Peppa," said Susie. "May I try it on and pretend that I'm a queen?" she asked. "Of course," answered Peppa. "It will fit you perfectly." She took her crown off and handed it to Susie to try on. Mummy Pig appeared and said to Peppa, "Be careful with your crown, Peppa. It's very precious. You don't want to break or lose it." "Don't worry, Mummy," said Peppa. "I'll look after it." And with that, Mummy Pig disappeared into the castle. Susie took the crown and placed it on her head. "Oh, I feel like a beautiful queen," she smiled. She didn't want to damage it, so she took it off and placed it on the grass beside her. Just then, Zoe, their friend, appeared. "Hello, Zoe," said the two girls. "Would you like to see my new toys?" Peppa asked. "Oh, yes, please," replied Zoe, and the three friends disappeared into the castle. Unfortunately, they'd forgotten about the crown, and it was left outside with no one looking after it. Oh dear, now there's going to be trouble. Look who's coming round the corner. It's Tom Moss, and I'm afraid he's spotted the crown. I hope he won't steal it. Too late, it's already on his funnel. It's going to be difficult getting that back again. Peppa soon realised they'd forgotten about the crown, and the girls raced outside to retrieve it. But oh dear, all they saw was the back of Tom Moss disappearing into the forest. "Oh my, what are we going to do?" sighed Peppa. Just then, who should be chuffing around the corner but Thomas. "Hello, Peppa," he said. "Oh dear, you look sad. Whatever is the matter?" he asked, and the three friends told Thomas all about it. "Peppa, we must retrieve your crown. Hop on board," he requested. So Peppa climbed onto Thomas's truck and off they went. "Be careful, Peppa." Peppa and Thomas eventually arrived near Tom Moss's lair. "I can see him," shouted Peppa excitedly. "He's hiding in that tunnel. Let's go after him." "Oh, I'm not so sure now," replied Thomas. "I've heard rumours that he has some scary monsters guarding him. We must be careful, or they could eat us alive." Peppa climbed off Thomas's truck. "Come on, Thomas," she said. "I don't believe in scary monsters." But just then, something jumped out in front of them. "It's only Mike," she smiled. Suddenly, another monster appeared. "Sally," she laughed, "I haven't seen you in ages." Just then, a third monster appeared in front of them.
Boo! Boo!
"Oh, Art," she smiled, "where have you been hiding these days?" "Thomas, these are my friends. They won't hurt anyone. You don't need to be afraid of them." "Sully," she asked, "would you be able to get my crown back for me? Tom Moss has stolen it and he's hiding in that tunnel." "Oh, I'm sorry, Peppa," he answered. "I'm a little afraid of Tom Moss. If I help you, he may prank me. Sorry." "Oh dear," sighed Peppa. "How am I ever going to get my crown back?" she sobbed. Just then, there was a flash of twinkling magical lights, and there stood a very pretty fairy. "I think you are in need of a little fairy magic," she smiled, and blew some fairy dust into the air. The dust swirled around Tom Moss, and then suddenly the crown vanished from his funnel and landed on Peppa's head. "Oh, thank you so much," she said gratefully to the fairy, whose name was Iridessa. "You're very welcome," she smiled. "That Tom Moss is a very naughty engine." And then she vanished into thin air. "Quick, Thomas," shouted Peppa, "let's catch Tom Moss," and she climbed back onto Thomas's truck. Tom Moss saw what was happening and made a very speedy getaway. Once again, he was just too quick to be caught. What will he get up to next time?
It was a beautiful day, and Thomas was transporting some digging equipment. Nearby, Tom Moss the prank engine was having a little giggle to himself. He'd done something naughty again, which Thomas would soon find out. Meanwhile, Thomas had to halt his journey. The path he was going to take was closed. "Oh well," said Thomas, "I've never been the other way before. I'm sure it'll be fine." And on he went. The track led to a strange tunnel. When Thomas emerged, he had no idea where he was. He was in some dark, scary world, and he had no idea how to get back. Suddenly, Thomas could hear a distinctive laugh nearby. Tom reversed down the tunnel, with Thomas in pursuit. When Thomas emerged, he stopped. He was relieved to be back, but he couldn't see Tom anywhere. Was that a bad dream? He wondered. But the dinosaur marks on his sides were definitely real. So Thomas left to deliver the equipment. Once he'd done that, he was desperate for a wash to put this whole thing behind him. I'm Dave, and thanks for watching my video, which featured the Thomas Spooky track set from Fisher-Price. The track is slightly smaller than the regular Trackmaster track, and it has a different connection. However, it does come with an adapter to the old brown Trackmaster track. The set comes with a special, also slightly smaller, Thomas. Thomas tilts the track and then goes through the dinosaur cave. He then passes the green lever, which resets the track, and finally he goes through the spooky purple house, whose arm falls when Thomas emerges. Hi everyone, we're down at the Sodor Forest looking for Sodor's naughtiest engine, Tom Moss the prank engine. Apparently he left the forest last night and has just got back having played a few pranks on some of the engines, and we're here to find out exactly what he did. If you missed the background video showing how Tom got his name and appearance, then click the link to see it. There he is. Tom, I understand that you crept up on Gordon while he was asleep, and knowing he doesn't like bananas, you covered him in banana skins. But that's not all you did, was it? What did you do to Gordon's express coaches? You turned them into bananas. What does he look like? I bet he's saying, "Oh, the indignity! Oh, the indignity!" Poor old Gordon. He's not happy, is he? Well, that's quite a lot of naughtiness for one night, isn't it? You did something else, didn't you? It's Henry, isn't it? Apparently, he's been moving a little faster this morning. You soaked his coal in rocket fuel, didn't you? Henry eventually ran out of rocket fuel coal and slowed down to normal speed, but Gordon still had his banana coaches, and Thomas joined them to help chase Tom Moss back to the forest. If you want to see more of Tom's pranks, make sure you're subscribed and join us next time for more adventures.